Welcome to John Martin Talks, where we battle ignorance and apathy daily. The growing ignorance of just how special this experiment we call the United States of America is, and the apathy that we can't or won't do anything and everything to save her. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we got a great show for you today. We're going to cover three general topics. We're going to start with going green. Is it actually killing children around the world, and specifically in the Congo? In other words, there is a price to pay for all this Green New Deal, and we'll get into specifics of that in just a moment. And then the whole debate now of where did the China virus start? You know, was it in the wet market in Wuhan? It's pretty much been determined it started in Wuhan. Or was it from the laboratory? You know, it's like they're coming a full circle on this now. And of course, believe it or not, some in the media are blaming Donald Trump for the reason why they didn't suspect the Wuhan lab all along. So we'll get into that because it is absolutely crazy. And then Texas, of course, Texas is a lot like Florida, the free state of Texas. They are on the verge of going open carry, constitutional carry across the board, and we'll talk about the good news there in just a moment. But before we go any further, I always have to talk about our sponsors. Now, no matter when or where you're watching the video, look above it. You'll see a description of what we're talking about on any given day, but you'll see links to our sponsors. Number one on that list is BDU, Big Daddy Unlimited, your Second Amendment headquarters. Click on that and you follow the instructions, and you will not only be supporting the show, but you will get factory direct pricing on guns and ammunition delivered directly to your door, as well as access to over 100,000 other items related, like tactical gear, protective wear, survival gear, even Second Amendment swag. You can find it at Big Daddy Unlimited, and they are your Second Amendment headquarters because they defend your Second Amendment on a daily basis. Then we have Patriotthreads.org, apparel with a purpose. Remember the promo code, the initials to our show, JMT, John Martin Talks, for 20% off. Patriotthreads.org is a total fulfillment center. So what they do is they produce high quality, patriotic themed gear for charity events. So if you have, for instance, a golf tournament or a motorcycle ride and you want to sell t-shirts that you can use profits from to go to the charity of your choice, check out patriotthreads.org, JMT, 20% off. You can't go wrong. Recoil TV. We're in partnership with Recoil TV. They have a YouTube channel. Of course, we have our own YouTube channel. Spell it out, John Martin Talks. We're on there live every day, Monday through Friday at 8 o'clock Eastern, or as close as we can get to it. Howdy, good morning. How you guys doing? But we have a channel in the channel of Recoil TV. Recoil TV is all about the Second Amendment as well. They produce high-quality videos about the latest guns, ammunition, tactical gear, that type of stuff, and our show is archived on there on a daily basis. All right, let's get into the story. This first story is a tragic one, but a true one, and it's sad. It's coming to you from a publication called Desert News. It's a regional paper out west. I've not used them before, I don't believe, but it's a very interesting story here. The headline, "Are children dying like dogs in an effort to build better batteries?" Now, this centers around the Congo, but it could be in many places in the third world, primarily around cobalt mining, which is huge in the Congo and basically is done with human hands, many of them women and certainly children. And this is the cobalt is a primary element in producing the more modern batteries that are used in everything from smartphones to Tesla cars, and we'll talk about that. But before we go any further, I want to play this video. You've probably seen it. This is Ocasio-Cortez back when she first got elected. I don't think she'd even been sworn in yet, and she talked about the Green New Deal and what would happen if we did not address it in basically within the next 12 years. Check it out.
Millennials and people and Gen Z and all these folks that come after us are looking up, and we're like, the world is going to end in 12 years if we don't address climate change. And your biggest issue is your biggest issue is how are we going to pay for it? And like, this is the war. This is our World War II.
This is our World War II. So she gives you 12 years to live. Of course, that was what, 4.5 years ago. So the clock is ticking, but it kind of gives an eerie of irony, if you will, that a lot of the elements, like getting off of fossil fuels primarily, is tied into children dying in the Congo. So these kids as young as 8 years old, I was reading about, basically, if you can stand up, walk, and put your hands down in muddy water and sift through it, then you are eligible to be a cobalt miner. Check it out. There's some horrendous videos out there and some images. But children are mining this as early as 8 years old and probably even earlier than that. And they're dying. And so, you know, maybe she's on to something there about 12 years to live. You don't have long to live if you're a child in the Congo, man, that's for sure. But this kind of subtitle of the story, it says, "Our children are dying like dogs." That is the sorrowful statement of one Congolese mother whose son and cousin died while working the cobalt mines in the Democratic Republic of Congo. And so it appears, ladies and gentlemen, that there is a cost to the Green New Deal. We knew that all along, right? I mean, one of the things with the Green New Deal and this getting off of fossil fuels, which is probably not going to happen anytime soon, but basically they're asking us to trade off our lifestyle, to lessen the lifestyle of American citizens. But at the same time, what they never talk to you about, and what I'm bringing to you, because one of the things about our show, I bring you topics of the day, I bring you trends that are happening, like we'll talk about big tech and all that in just a little bit, but I bring you trends that are happening with the Second Amendment and other things, but I also bring things to you from time to time that you really need to put on your radar screen that perhaps you haven't thought about, that the mainstream media is certainly not covering it. And this is one of those cases because there is a human cost beyond lifestyle. There's literally a human cost to going with all these battery operated things. And many of us, including myself from time to time, take it for granted that we're just, you know, this is battery operated, I'm doing something green and all of that kind of stuff. I use I just bought an electric chainsaw the other day and it works really, really well. But I'm sure that the battery that's in it has it may come directly from cobalt that was mined in the Congo. So I want to put this on your radar screen because this is something you're not going to hear from the mainstream media and the progressives, because they want to make it think that clean energy, if there is such a thing, is spotless, and there is a big stain on it. She and other parents, talking about this Congolese mother, she and other parents like her are part of a class action lawsuit filed in U.S. federal court in Washington, D.C. in 2019. Now, it's just kind of going through the channels now, seeking to hold Apple, Alphabet, which is the parent company of Google, which I tell you is of the devil, Dell Technologies, Microsoft, and Tesla. These are the biggest of the big, ladies and gentlemen, accountable for what they allege is profiting off the misery of child labor in their quest for cobalt. I have no doubt about this story whatsoever, and it's not limited to the Congo, although some of the worst misery is there. Big tech, as we know, has been killing free speech literally on a daily basis. They just had a story break just the other day. This Veritas again broke a story about Facebook essentially squelching your reach if you have anything negative or even that they deem negative about the virus or about especially the vaccines for the virus. Me even mention it could squelch me, and certainly Facebook and algorithm, all due deference to algorithm, the most powerful man in the world, they are definitely killing free speech. But now apparently places like Google, Facebook, because I mean, most people access Facebook on their smartphone, so there you're talking about some of these batteries, and the batteries in the computers are the same thing. They're not only responsible for killing free speech, but they're killing children. And the last time I checked, these children were children of color. Not that it makes a difference in that sense. Dead is dead, but they're children of color, third world nations around the world, and we're centering on Congo. So killing free speech, and now they're killing the children, man. My governor, by the way, Mr. Ron DeSantis, just signed a bill yesterday. We talked about this a few weeks ago, where he was going to take on big tech. Well, they passed it in the legislature, and he signed it into law yesterday. Now, it doesn't have directly to do with the Congo children, but it does have to do with making big tech accountable for free speech and all of that kind of stuff. My governor, the great state of Florida, as I tell you on a regular basis, I'm becoming more and more appreciative of this. I'm American by birth, Floridian by the grace of God. But he signed this in, and I'm sure that if he knows about this, and maybe he's watching the show, Governor DeSantis, we need to take on this issue as well, that big tech is killing children. And the suit, here's the lawsuit. The suit, we're going to read some components from it. The suit reads this, says cobalt is a key component of every rechargeable, check this out, every rechargeable lithium-ion battery. So basically, every of these modern batteries has cobalt, is a big part of the manufacture of that. And the largest area where they're getting this cobalt from is in the Congo. And I can't emphasize this enough. They are literally using women and children standing in like knee-deep water, sloshing through this debris to mine this cobalt. It is terrible, without a doubt. Cobalt is a key component of every rechargeable lithium-ion battery and all of the gadgets made by the defendants, those companies we talked about, and all other tech and electric car companies in the world, including, like I say, my chainsaw that I just bought, and it's a very efficient machine. Electric car companies in the world that has brought on the latest wave of cruel exploitation fueled by the old classics, greed, corruption, and indifference to a population of powerless, starving Congolese people. Indifference to a population of powerlessness, in this case, children. Let me just tell you, ladies and gentlemen, and you may say this is an unfair comparison, but I don't think it is at all. That idea, indifference to a population of powerless people, is exactly what the progressives do on a regular basis. They don't care about people in general, not individuals for sure. They only care about groupthink, because progressives actually don't care how it impacts you as long as the policy is right. So in other words, the Green New Deal will lead us to the promised land. It doesn't matter how we get there. It doesn't matter how many Congolese children are sacrificed. That's irrelevant, because the policy is what is important. As long as the policy is right, the how you get there, how you pay for it, the actual cost of it in human misery is completely irrelevant. That's why you will never see this story talked about on CNN or anything like that, at least not much. They might give it 30 seconds. But that's what progressives, let me give you a quick example. And fortunately, this example isn't costing lives, but at least not that I know of, but it shows you the mindset of this. In this community that I'm broadcasting from, Gainesville, Florida, which is not only home to the University of Florida, but home to the most progressive city commission maybe on the planet. I'd put them up against San Francisco and places like that all the time. Well, a few years ago, for many, many years, they've owned their own utility called Gainesville Regional Utilities. Well, and it's mostly coal and gas-fired electrical generation that they sell to their customers and put on the grid. Overall, it's been very well run in the past. But about a decade ago, the city commission wanted to virtue signal, and that's what these progressives do. They don't care about the cost. They care about how they look. They virtue signaled that they were going to build a biomass plant here. So in other words, burning trees to get us off of, quote, fossil fuels. And it has been an unmitigated disaster. And it's just coming back in the news right now because Gainesville, that was operating in the black and taking like $30 million a year out of GRU to help operate the city, is now been downgraded by, I believe, Standard & Poor's is the company. Don't hold me to that. But one of these bond rating companies. And it is costing the city millions and millions of dollars in additional interest payment because this plant is not financially viable, and the bond rating company has downgraded their bonds, and these people still stand behind this. The ones that brought it on, the ones that have supported it all along, they don't apologize. They basically say that it's going to pay off in the long run. But the fact that it's literally bankrupting the city of Gainesville right now is completely irrelevant because the policy is going to bring them towards the Green New Deal, and that's all that matters. The suffering of taxpayers, the individual person out here in business, completely irrelevant, man. They probably look at me like, you go into any progressive commission or committee or anything run by progressive, some school boards, we've seen it here a lot lately. I just played a thing yesterday. By the way, if you want to see any of our podcasts, you can certainly go on YouTube and others, but a good way to do it is look at America's Voice News. They are an excellent option if you want to get outside the mainstream media. They stream on Roku, Fire Stick, Apple TV. They're also on channel 219 Dish Network and the Pluto channel. You can get downloads, free apps on your Android or your iPhone. Now, we don't have a live show on there at the moment. We're on their streaming service. You can petition them, say, we want to see John Martin Talks live, but all you got to do is go on their streaming service, no matter which one you use. Look up America's Voice News, click on it, look at the shows tab, click on that, and you will see our show there in 16-minute segments. But as I've said this before, but if I say it, it bears repeating. Go into any progressive, you want to see it, proof in the pudding of what I'm talking about here. Go to any commission or appointed or whatever, from school board to county and city commissions that's progressive. And it doesn't matter what they're talking about. Under citizen comment, you ask the question, who's going to pay for this and how much is it going to cost? And they will look at you like you just came from Venus or somewhere, because it's irrelevant. First of all, the answer to the first question, who's going to pay for it? You are. That's for sure. You and any other taxpayers, you're going to pay for it. And how much it costs? Well, you heard Ocasio-Cortez say in that video that doesn't matter. Why would you even argue about how much something costs? That's the way progressives think. It's irrelevant because the policy is right, the justification, the impact on individuals, children in the Congo, sorry about your luck. But the companies have argued, these big tech companies, let me take a sip. The companies have argued the case should be dismissed, asserting that they have no control over the mining practices. They're not wanting to dismiss because it's not relevant. They're trying to come up with legal tactics. Listen to this. The companies have argued the case should be dismissed, asserting they have no control over the mining practices in foreign country and that families lack standing. So they might not be able to stand, so they're lacking standing to bring the suit on U.S. soil. So much for caring about the downtrodden. Furthermore, they stress that they have no direct connection to mining on foreign soil. Well, how convenient is that? I mean, these companies, these big companies, are you woke or not? You can't tell me that Google doesn't know what's happening in these cobalt mines. You can't tell me that Tesla doesn't know what's happening in these cobalt mines. I mean, I refuse to even entertain that they don't know. So are they truly woke or not? That's what I want to know. Are they woke? Because if they're truly woke, aren't they supposed to be caring about people? They talk about it all the time, right? But when push comes to shove and it hits that bottom line, not so much. Apple, over the years, to use an example, has cracked down on its global supply chain. Maybe, but not. I suspect that's probably not as true as it makes it sound here. Apple, over the years, has cracked down on its global supply chain of cobalt, and at one point said it would stop buying cobalt mined by hand in the Congo. Oh, really? Yeah, okay, well, they've probably found a way to whitewash it. But have you ever heard this term, Belt and Road Initiative? If you don't know what I'm talking about, I'm not going to get too deep into it, but it's Chinese initiative from the Communist Chinese Party, and they're really doing it quite a bit in Africa for sure, but the third world all over, and even in South America and in the Caribbean. they're doing it here. But what it is it's a trap, really. But the Chinese come in and say, okay, we're going to help you with infrastructure. We're going to build a dam. We're going to help you with a road. We're going to help you with your port, that type of thing. We're going to help you with your cobalt mine. And in exchange for that, we're going to get control of it if you can't pay your loans back and everything. So that's exactly what is happening in the Congo. And you say, well, how does this relate to Apple? Well, the infrastructure agreement between the Chinese and their partners and mining rights to cobalt and copper in the Democratic Republic of Congo. So the Chinese have entered into a partnership with the Congo to mine this cobalt and to mine copper. Well, Apple has much of their manufacturing in China. And let me tell you this, if you're supporting business coming out of China, let alone you're actually doing business in China, and this is even up to us buying stuff, but certainly Apple, because they know exactly what time it is, you are supporting one of the most ruthless regimes in the world, and they are definitely taking it to the people of the Congo and the children. This is what Apple released a statement in 2019 about this. Apple is committed to treating everyone in our business and supply chain with dignity and respect, to upholding human rights. So they're all about human rights, but they do business in China. Holding human rights across our global network of suppliers, we set high standards to respect and empower those who build our products while conserving the planet's resources. Look at the mining they do for lithium and cobalt and copper, man. And you tell me it's conserving, man. We are dedicated to, this is from Apple, we are dedicated to protecting children wherever our products are made or used. Oh, really? You know, is that true? Is that true, Apple? Have you seen this video? Now, this video is a little over a year, maybe even 2 years old, but it's pretty strong nonetheless. You've been hearing about the Uyghur Muslims, right, and what China is doing to them. Here is a leaked video from Uyghur Muslims being rounded up, blindfolded, and putting on a train. And, you know, when you pack people into train cars, the history of that has not been too good, has it? And I believe it's not too good for these Uyghur Muslims. Check it out.
Shocking vision has emerged of shackled prisoners in a mostly Muslim region of China. The blindfolded detainees are from China's minority Uyghur Muslims, a European security source has told Sky News. The footage was published anonymously on Twitter and YouTube. China has denied widespread reports of concentration camps.
Concentration camps in China. We know for a fact that there are concentration camps in China. Even President Biden, God help us that he's president, spoke about this. So, you know, Apple can claim ignorance about all of this. Nike, that there's actual evidence that the Uyghurs are directly making shoes for Nike. Those kind of things. They're making something in these prison camps, but none of these huge corporations that do all of this business with China can claim ignorance on this. I will not even entertain that. They absolutely know that. But maybe, and I kind of alluded to this a minute ago, maybe they're taking their cues from a world leader. Let's check out this world leader and what he says about what's happening. And he mentions the Uyghurs in China specifically. Check it out.
You know, Chinese leaders, if you know anything about Chinese history, it has always been the time when China has been victimized by the outer world is when they haven't been unified at home. So the central, vastly overstated, the central principle of Xi Jinping is that there must be a united, tightly controlled China. And he uses his rationale for the things he does based on that. I point out to him, no American president can be sustained as a president if he doesn't reflect the values of the United States. And so the idea, I'm not going to speak out against what he's doing in Hong Kong, what he's doing with the Uyghurs in western mountains of China, and Taiwan trying to end the one China policy by making it forceful. I said, and by the way, he said he gets it. Culturally, there are different norms at each country, and their leaders are expected to follow.
That's good enough. Every time I see that, and I play, you can't, to me, I know I've played that a lot, but I don't think the American people could see that enough. Every time I play it, it just infuriates me. You got Joe Biden up there saying that the difference is just cultural norms. That's the only difference. So the fact that they are mutilating people in these internment camps, which is what they are, they're actually harvesting people's organs, these Uyghur Muslims. They're castrating men and sterilizing them. They are raping women and prodding them with electric probes and torturing them. That's just a cultural norm. And these people are being forced to work on products, making things like batteries for these companies. So the misery in China, and if they don't even care about their own citizens, which these Uyghurs are citizens of China, what do you think they care about the children in Congo? Probably less than zero, if there is such a thing. So these companies, I'm not giving them a free pass. It may get me banned from YouTube, whatever. I don't know. I hope not. I hope they have the courage for the truth to come out. But I am going to keep speaking the truth to you and occasionally putting stories like this on your plate, even though it may be discomforting to you, because all of us are guilty to a certain extent. We're all using these products, right? I'm not going to stop using my smartphone. I'm not going to stop using my electric chainsaw, those kind of things. But we should understand that there is a human cost to this. And the main thing I want to do is expose the hypocrisy of the progressive left that have taken over this country. And that's my main political goal, by the way, is to stop the progressive takeover of this country. But this idea that if we just get green enough, that all of our problems will go away. Well, then we will truly become Hunger Games, shiny city on the hill, while the rest of the world, including these poor children in Congo who suffer just from the day they're born there, are mining it for our way of life. I'm not, like I say, I'm not telling you to put down your cell phone, but if we're going to get woke, let's get woke and see the reality of what's happening here. But the lawsuit insists companies are simply, this is brought on by the people in the Congo, but the lawsuit insists companies are simply turning a blind eye to egregious abuses, include children killed in tunnel collapse. So these companies are saying this is not really anything to do with them. So children are getting killed in tunnel collapses, no big deal. Or losing limbs, or suffering, you got two arms, you lose one, what difference it make? Or suffering from other horrific injuries caused by mining accidents. So they're saying, they're not denying that this isn't happening, but they're saying we don't really have control over this. If they're paying the money, the bling bling is what controls it all, right? But this is pretty callous, man. It's pretty callous to just dismiss, the fact that they're, dying and losing limbs, really not our fault. Yeah, they're acknowledging that it happened, but it's not our fault. And it's just callous. And if you want to know what the definition of callous, showing or having an insensitive and cruel disregard for others. Well, these big corporations that are supposedly woke, that's why they're the perfect partners for these progressive leftists, because the big government that Biden is creating, the Democrats, the progressives are creating, they get along great with these big businesses because they don't care about the individuals either. They don't care about crime in the street. They don't care about the Jews being beaten up in New York by the Palestinian thugs up there. They don't care about that. Look at what's happening out in California. I started to do a story about San Francisco. I did one about Walgreens pulling out because they're just getting robbed blind. But now even liberals in these high dollar neighborhoods are saying, people are just literally terrorized, like the purge for real, terrorizing their neighborhoods every night now. And that's what you get for voting people in San Francisco at all. But these Democrats, they don't care about individuals. See, that's what they hate about the right and about the Constitution. That's why they hate folks like me, because I bring out the fact that the Constitution is not about, like Biden says, we the people are us, the government. No, it's not. We the people are us, rugged individuals. The Constitution was not written to empower government, but to protect individuals' rights from the overreach of government. They don't want that truth out there. That's why they hate the Constitution, and that is one of the reasons why I do the show on a daily basis. But the next time, I just want to put this out there. The next time you bash fossil fuels, and I'm not saying that the oil companies are just angels by any stretch whatsoever. But the next time you bash fossil fuels, keep this next paragraph, which is part of this lawsuit, in mind. The lawsuit says there is no question that defendants have specific knowledge that the cobalt mined in Congo they use in their various products includes cobalt that was produced by children working under extremely hazardous conditions. There's no doubt they know about it. That serious mining accidents are common due to the primitive conditions and complete lack of safety precautions in the mines, and that hundreds, if not thousands, of children have been maimed or killed to produce the cobalt needed for the world's modern tech gadgets produced by defendants and other companies. Other companies out there, ladies and gentlemen. Here's another, like I say, I'm not defending the oil industry, but this idea that the oil business, the fossil fuel business, is this overarching evil, and that somehow if we get green with electric cars and everything else, that we're just going to be kumbaya. We might be, but the children of the Congo, not so much. But this is another reason, ladies and gentlemen, to have American energy independence, so we can put pressure on some of this to control what's happening. So we're not exploiting children. I don't want to exploit children anywhere in the world. I'm again that. I'm just saying, But that's another reason for us to be energy independent. If we're not, then we're at the mercy to a certain extent of fossil fuel companies or these battery companies and everything else that are actually maiming and killing children. But of course, when it comes to the left, I'm not so sure they care about children especially, but that's another story. It goes on to emphasize, talking about the lawsuit, to emphasize that every smartphone, tablet, laptop, which I'm using right now, electric vehicle, or other device containing a lithium-ion rechargeable battery requires cobalt in order to recharge. I'm using one right here. Put simply, the hundreds of billions of dollars generated by the defendants, talking about these big tech companies, each year would not be possible without cobalt mined by children, I remind you, in the Congo. But see, here's the thing. Progressives are okay with this. They really are. Because you remember, the mantra of the modern Democratic Party, not everybody who's a Democrat, I'm talking about your leaders, is America sucks. It's always sucked. It sucks for some more than others, and if you vote for us, we'll make it suck for everybody equally. Now, I've been confining that to the United States, but the progressives have a limitless view, man, especially led by the Chinese Communist Party. They want to make it suck for everybody but them worldwide. All I'm asking you, ladies and gentlemen, is to get truly woke and realize that there is a price to be paid for all of this. So I want to expose the hypocrisy of the left. I'm not telling you to ditch your cell phone. I'm certainly not going to ditch my tablet. What I'm saying is that this idea that we have a choice between a world of fossil fuels that is just going to condemn us to hell like we've never seen, or the nirvana that is going to be produced by the Green New Deal, is total BS. And that's all I'm trying to show to you. All right, we got a few minutes left in the show here. I want to get into this second story. This is from Breitbart. And I don't know if you've been following this or not, but, the idea of where the Wuhan, the China virus, of course, you're not supposed to say that, right? Where it came from, where COVID-19 came from. And we've been led to believe that it came from the wet market in Wuhan. Forget the fact that there's these viral labs all over the place there. No, it couldn't have come from there. It came from bats and whatever that other scaly looking animal is over there. That's where it came from. And any talk about it coming from the lab is like, sacrilegious. It's whatever, man. Anti-science. But they're now starting to question, they being the mainstream media, where it came from. And this is a lady from the New York Times, and she blames Donald Trump. Listen to this. New York Times Haberman blames Trump administration for media discrediting theories of COVID-19 origins. Made this instantly political, she said here. So the Wuhan lab, the fact that they got a couple of these over there that we actually funded, by the way, through Dr. Fauci. I mean, nothing to see here. Just move along. It couldn't be that. It's got to be some armadillo-like creature that, it's just crazy. Monday on CNN's New Day, New York Times White House reporter Maggie Haberman weighed in on mounting evidence that suggests COVID-19 originated at the Wuhan Institute of Virology. Dr. Anthony Fauci has even said he is not convinced that the coronavirus developed naturally after first pushing back against the theory. Well, listen, this meme is funny. Let me ask you this. If you were concerned about your own personal health and you knew what you knew about Dr. Fauci, would you pick him as your personal physician? I know I wouldn't, man. There is no way. Now, he may be brilliant, but there's no way. I mean, can you imagine? Here's Dr. Fauci if he were your physician. You come in and get screened. He goes, you got cancer and you got like 2 weeks to live. I'm sorry about your luck, but that's the way it is. And then you come back in 2 weeks later and goes, I've kind of weighed it, looked at it a little bit different, and you don't have cancer. You'll probably live forever. And then comes back and says, well, it's somewhere in between. You're either going to die tomorrow or you may live another 10 years. That's pretty much how he has dealt with the coronavirus and masks and whatnot, right? I mean, he just puts his finger to the wind. He even said that he puts out information based on what he thinks people are ready to hear. I would say it's based on what he would. But these people, man, they're crazy. According to Haberman, this reporter from the New York Times, former President Donald Trump, now listen to this, the reason why the media went so full bore, according to her, that this disease could not have come from the Wuhan lab, this is the reason right here. According to Haberman, former President Donald Trump and former Secretary of State Mike Pompeo are to blame for the theory immediately being shot down by the media because they burn their own credibility over and over again. So I guess what she's saying is for them to take this theory seriously, that it might have come from the laboratories in Wuhan, would have been for Donald Trump to come out there and said something like this. Let me tell you, ladies and gentlemen, there is no way in the world that this virus came from the Wuhan labs. Probably didn't even come from China. I don't know why we're calling it the China virus. It absolutely, this is Donald Trump needed to say this, without a shadow of a doubt, there is no possible way it could have come from the Wuhan lab. If he'd have said that, then Aberman and all the rest of these yahoos out there would have been, we got to have a major investigation. We got to have a 9/11 style commission to look into whether it came from the Wuhan lab. Because whatever Trump said, they got to go against. I mean, isn't that pretty much what Biden is, his agenda as president is? If Trump did it, we can't do it. We got to be 100% against it. But Trump should have said that and saved the world, right? But host John Berman posed a question to Haberman. He said this, a lot of the discussion about the lab leak, I think, was clouded early on because there was a suggestion by some that it was somehow a Chinese weapon that caused this. Heck of a weapon. That's not what we're talking about here. Well, why not? We're talking about a lab accident, but how do you know that? Do you really know it was an accident? But we've come to a long way from people dismissing this as a conspiracy. What a question. Conspiracy theory to a lot of people taking this seriously. Maggie, let me just listen to the question that he asked. Ladies and gentlemen, if you ever doubted that TDS, Trump Derangement Syndrome, is real, I mean, this whole article smacks of it. So they're saying that the reason why they didn't investigate it, whether it was CNN or the New York Times, that it came from the Wuhan lab is because Trump said that it came from the Wuhan lab. That's basically what they're saying here. But Haberman went on to say, she said, I think this was, example 1000 when the Trump administration learned when you burn your own credibility. Wow. So how does telling the truth burn your credibility? I can understand why it would burn the Times, and I'll explain in a minute. When you burn your own credibility over and over again, people are not immediately going to believe you especially in an election year. However, that does not mean it's not worth discussing. So the New York Times, this major report of the New York Times talking about credibility and that the Trumps doesn't have it. But ladies and gentlemen, what credibility does the New York Times have, man? I mean, credibility, the very definition of credibility is the quality of being trusted and believed in. I don't know if you remember this, but this was during the Trump presidency. He was, and the context doesn't matter too much, but Trump was involved in some stuff talking about some gun violence issues, race issues, and stuff like that. Well, the New York Times came out with a headline, this headline right here in the morning, basically praising Donald Trump for trying to build unity. Now, that was the morning edition of the paper. Now, after that came out, it was pro-Trump, right? He's trying to build unity. So they had all these yahoos on Twitter and whatever, the Twitter twats probably, the squad, chiming in saying, oh, you can't say anything positive about Donald Trump. How dare you be the paper of record and say anything positive about Donald Trump? So the New York Times caved. Now, they didn't change the story, but in the afternoon, they came out with this headline, basically saying that Donald Trump, did nothing about guns and was all negative. So in the morning, it was partially positive about Trump. They couldn't even be, TDS is so much, they couldn't even be partially positive about Trump. So they had to change the headline in the afternoon to be negative about Trump. And so but they say they're the paper of credibility and Donald Trump is not. Give me a break, man. But I like how in this, and this is a very important part of this article, it says here that especially in an election year. And that's what this is all about. It was an election year, and anything that was positive about Trump, including the fact that he wasn't responsible for the coronavirus, it was sent here by China, so to speak, intentionally or unintentionally from that lab. They couldn't have that. So they weren't going to investigate that whatsoever because it might help Trump get reelected. They had to blame him for the coronavirus, and they did a pretty effective job. You get all these big organizations with billions of dollars behind them just hammering one person, and it has an impact in spite of how great Trump was. But this is all about the election year. All right, we got a few minutes left. I want to get into this last story because, I like to bring you a little good news. It's not all gloom and doom out there. As I've been telling you, the action, ladies and gentlemen, is in the states. The legislature passes constitutional carry law to allow people to have guns without a permit. This is from Newsweek. In Texas, ladies and gentlemen, the State House and Senate came to a compromise on specific details of the bill, allowing the House to pass it Sunday night in an 82-62 vote, too close for me, and the Senate approved it 17-13 on Monday. Now, Texas Governor Greg Abbott is expected to sign it, and probably sign it could be as early as this morning. But Texas, man, I got to give him credit. I tell you, I'm American by birth, Floridian by the grace of God, but I love me some Texas as well, and I love this meme because Texas has the cojones to actually do this. The House Bill 1927, authored by Representative Matt Schaefer of Tyler, would allow Texans to carry permitless carry of handguns. I don't like that term allow, but that's just me, because I think you have the right, period, and they've taken it away. The handguns in their home state, as long as they are not banned from owning a gun separate state or federal law. This is what gun rights activists call constitutional carry, citing the original context of the Second Amendment. And it says, but this is the part of the sentence I don't like. It says, this is what gun rights activists call constitutional carry. And it is constitutional carry, but it's not just gun rights activists. It should be anyone who believes in the U.S. Constitution. You don't have to be a gun enthusiast, a gun rights advocate. And this meme is so true. And this is why I do the show on a daily basis, Battling Ignorance and Apathy, by the way. We don't need to change the Constitution. We just need to reread it and actually, as Governor DeSantis said yesterday, teach it in our schools. The Texas House Democrats voiced their dissent, no doubt, to the permitless carry, citing their state's high incidence of gun violence and mass shootings. It says, this is a person here, Charles Turner of Democrats, said this. This is our first session since these tragedies, talking about gun violence, And let me check my time. Just about out of time. And this is our response. A bill to allow permitless carry. A bill to say you don't have any training to carry a handgun in the state of Texas. And imagine a worse slap in the face to, he said, I can't imagine a worse slap in the face to all those people who have advocated to the victims and to the family of these victims. Now, what in the world, ladies and gentlemen, does that have to do with being able to carry a firearm legally in Texas? I mean, these people who are committing these mass shootings, it's not like they're going to say, well, I need to check what the legislature said about that and what the law in Texas said. Do you really believe these maniacs that shoot up these places are people who commit crimes in general using a firearm? Do you really think well, let me look up the law here and see if I'm allowed to hold you up or to shoot people massively in a Walmart? It's ridiculous to say that people having their constitutional rights are taken away because of what other idiots might do. I mean, put that in any other context and you'd say, okay, well, just because there are people who drive drunk or drive like an idiot, then therefore no one can have a driver's license. I mean, it's just stupid on the surface of it. But ladies and gentlemen, I hope you've enjoyed our show today as much as I've enjoyed bringing it to you. Please go directly to our social media sites, like them, share them with others, because we're under the gun. Now, we're creating a whole new platform here with Big Daddy Unlimited is working on that, and a lot is going to happen, start popping in June, I do believe. But please share it far and wide. Please go to our sponsors. Check them out. If you have any interest whatsoever in owning a firearm, you really need to check out Big Daddy Unlimited. Go through our link above our show, because it not only helps you get that factory direct pricing, but it helps me. And one of my good buddies, Captain Dylan Hubbard, I was on his fishing show the other day, I had him look at it, and he says, I can't believe they have prices that low. And he is a gun enthusiast, so he knows what he's talking about. Check it out. You can't go wrong. I'll pray for your family. You pray for mine. Let's all pray for this great nation, because, man, does she deserve it, and certainly needs it more now than ever. But like I say, ladies and gentlemen, each and every day, from my heart, from my family to yours, have a blessed day. Thank you.